Hey, Honest Tree here. Pop A Ride, May 25th, 2021. This is the evening after the ride. It's about 9:43 p.m. local time, Central Standard Time here in Texas. And I guess for some silly reason, I'm in the mood to just chat. A little chat with the viewer at night. I kind of view this sort of like the guy, the old guy country who is a man. He's a guy to but to just be the DJ, say a few words, make some commentary, and just share some thoughts. Part of the challenge here sometimes is knowing what to talk about because I don't go into this with any thoughts about what I should say. And I've had some teammates or people that I know on rides tell me that they listened to some of these talks that I would give on the channel, like at night. It would help them go to sleep. Like there was something calming about it, or actually so boring about it, just put them to sleep. But um, I don't know. It's like a micro sport, right? You know, cycling itself is a tiny sport. And then you have the local racing scene in your area, which is even tinier, like the amateur racing scene. And then even smaller than your local scene is the local scene on the group rides that you do. That's about as small as you can get. And that's what I bring to you. The ultimate in the smallest sporting scene possible. Let's see, what happened that was interesting on this ride today? Well, I got to talk to my teammate Gary. Um, he's on the ride here somewhere. I can't see him in the video right at the moment. But congratulations to Gary. He catted up this year from Cat 4 to Cat 3. And he didn't mess around. As soon as he catted up, he went to Driveway in Austin. So Driveway is I was going to say it's the most famous crit in Texas, but I might get yelled at for saying that. It's one of the two most famous crits in Texas. I'll put the Fair Park crit in Dallas up there as well. But anyway, this crit Driveway in Austin. Why should Austin have a bigger cycling scene than Dallas? Does that make any sense? Does that make any? I mean, well, first off, maybe it doesn't have a bigger cycling scene. I don't know. I can't compare. I haven't been down there. I haven't done the crit there. Maybe Dallas area has a bigger scene. And I don't want to shortchange the Tuesday night crit in Richardson. It's just that historically, at least, in years past, it's been considered as far as prestige. And again, I'm going to get in trouble for saying these things because I think the prestige and level of the Tuesday night crit in Richardson seems to me has gone up over time. And, it's just kind of a different scene with riders up north and riders down south. If you want to race at Fair Park in Dallas, especially if you're a beginning level racer, Cat 5, Cat 4, and you're going to be racing in the secret. I'm not sure what time it starts, but maybe 5:30, 5:45. So, you get out of work at 5 o'clock, you're going to have a hard time making it down there for the start of the race if you live 20, 30, 40 miles north of Fair Park, which is next to the Cotton Bowl, the historic Cotton Bowl in downtown Dallas, where they also have the state fair at Fair Park. So, anyway, what was I talking about? There's Gary. He's right in front of me. He's right there on the right, red and white bike there, Specialized. And so I was watching this video. Justin McCreary, I believe is his name. He has a YouTube channel that's his name, Justin McCreary. And he is a current or former pro, meaning that he's relatively young, like, I don't know, I think he's in his late 20s. And as of, pre-COVID, he was on a domestic pro team. I think he still is. So if he's a former pro, it's not because he's like a super old guy, but rather he's just maybe in between teams or something. But I think he's currently a pro. Anyway, he has a YouTube channel. I'm watching it, and he is try not to say so much. He has these videos, He used to put a lot more effort into his videos, I think, but like a lot of YouTubers who do cycling, I think they come to realize that for the vast, vast majority of us, there is no there is no gold at the end of this rainbow as far as making money or becoming famous or whatever, whatever one's dream was with YouTube. There's a million other ways to make money or do better on YouTube other than cycling. You look at the two non-commercial sort of independent person running their own YouTube channel, biggest success stories I think would be Vegan Cyclist and NorCal Cycling. And gosh, I think what Vegan Cyclist number of subscribers is 175,000, which is great, and he has a very passionate base of subscribers. That 175,000 means a lot, because you look at other cyclists or other cycling channels, the vast majority of them don't have, at least in the road cycling world, don't have that level of subscription. And so it's not necessarily the size of the subscriber base. So I imagine that most of Vegan's money making related to his channel is sponsorships and endorsements and those kinds of things, not so much the actual YouTube views and time spent watching his YouTube channel. So anyway, Justin McCreary. So he's been posting up some videos of his races, and it used to be, he would do the highlights and talk over his highlights and make some jokes, and he's actually a pretty funny guy, I think. That's why I subscribe to his channel. Not to mention a pretty talented cyclist, way, way, way beyond what I can do. Anyway, so I'm watching a video it was like last week's driveway in Austin, and I'm just watching it, and Justin goes by this guy, and suddenly I see a teammate's kit, and instantly I recognized it was Gary, and I was like, Gary catted up. And the next week he's doing the P123. Now Gary's not a spring chicken. He's, I believe, over 50, so he's a masters racer, and as soon as he gets a Cat 3, he says he went, so I talked to him today. He said he, was in Austin, and so when you're in Austin, you might as well do the driveway. And he did the B crit or the Cat 3-4. I'm not exactly sure how they do it there, but Cat 3-4, and he didn't tell me how he did there, because I was like kind of surprised he did the 1-2-3, so I was very curious about how he did in the 1-2-3. And not to insult Gary at all, Gary's done very well in local cycling as a Cat 4. I thought for sure, he was going to tell me, yeah, it was like really tough. I did the B race, and then I recovered while they were doing the women's race, and then I did the P123, and I wanted to see how long I could hold on. He did tell me that he wanted to see how long he could hold on. Well, he held on the whole way. He never got dropped, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. I don't think I could do that. Maybe if everything went my way, maybe I could do that, but I'm not so sure I could hold on to the group. He was talking about how fast the group was, especially how fast they were through the turns. And it took him a few laps to get used to that speed, which I can relate to, having done these smaller crits like the Tubbs crit up in McKinney, where I just couldn't handle the speed of those turns. It's pretty technical. And also the roads there were not super confidence inspiring, especially when you see guys crashing out on dry roads, slipping and sliding. There was a particular corner that had refrigerator trucks that would wait there in the corner, and they'd just be dropping oil, and all kinds of guys crashed there. And forget it if it was at all wet. You would die if it was wet. I did this crit there, I guess it's been 3 years ago, and it was a Saturday crit, so it wasn't the usual weeknight crit. So we had people from out of state, and this was the 40 plus crit, so that includes Cat 1s, Cat 2s, and so forth. Literally 5 seconds after the whistle, it starts raining, and I knew that was going to be trouble. I was already going to be in trouble in that crit due to how technical it is. But anyway, it starts raining, and in the particular corner that's particularly wet, guys were just going down like crazy. I have a video of that somewhere. If I was a successful and smart YouTuber, I would put a link in the upper right of this and you could click on that. But I'm not that kind of YouTuber. So you'll just have to search for it. I guess it was the part of the Critmas. If you did a search, Honestry Critmas, Critmas, at the Tups course, not at the Rockwall course. And I saw a couple of guys after all these crashes in that particular corner. I saw a couple of guys they stopped at the tent, packed everything up, and just walked off. Now it did stop raining, and I stuck in the ride and was able to finish it. And I think I got like 13th or something. But anyway, who cares? So I was really impressed with Gary. I think that was the story of the day for me. That Gary finished the P123 driveway crit in the main group, was not dropped. I think he said he was 16 seconds behind the winner, and he finished 42nd. I think the field size was something outrageous, like 120. The first number that popped in my head was 180, but I don't think that can be correct. I think there was like 120 guys in the field. That's a lot. From first, the guy at the beginning of the group to the guy at the end of the group. I can only imagine the distance there. And I can only imagine how fast it was. Well, I don't have to imagine. I can watch the video. I didn't watch the whole video. I kind of watched the first 5-6 minutes, and then I also watched the very end because I wanted to see what happened with Justin at the end. And Justin made a brave attack at the end, but it was not good enough. He knew he burned his last match about maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred yards before the finish line and just got, sucked in. Then he sat up. But that's one cool thing about this is seeing the success of other riders that you ride with in these groups, and sometimes you've been riding for many years. Speaking of which, here on the left is Angela in the reunion kit with her husband Kent. And I didn't really know this. Angela's been doing the Pop A for a long time, and I think by far she's the woman that's done the most Pop A's. It's her, and the list is very, very small after that. She's probably ridden in the past, 4 years. She's probably ridden Pop A more than all the other women combined, more times. So I didn't know this before, but she has a background in triathlons, and she had never done a crit race until this year, and she's been doing the crit races down at Fair Park, the King Racing Group Fair Park crit, and I noticed that she was on the podium, saw a podium picture, and she was wearing this Pop A kit. So you can see right in front of me on the right, this is Steve on the yellow bike here. He's got a Pop A kit. This is from Eliel. It was a kit designed by a couple of guys on my team. It's not a team jersey, but rather it's a ride jersey. So essentially anyone who wants to can buy and order that kit when it's available. I suppose any of you listeners could order this kit the next time James puts the store back together. And not that you would want to. I'm not involved in it at all. I don't have any financial relationship with LEL, the kit or anything. And it's not like, I'm not like the official Pop video thing or anything like that. Anyway, so Angela was on the podium in the picture wearing her Pop A kit, and that was awesome. Because, I think this was before Angela was on a team. Angela, I don't know if she started this team or she joined the team, but she's on a team called Reunion now, and I think the first week she was like third place, and then second she's second, and then last week she's first, and she's making that progression of learning the skills and abilities of the other racers and also learning her tactical skills. And we talked a little bit after this ride about tactics related to energy conservation. Energy conservation is so important. Well, this is Cat 3 advice, right? So this is somewhat worthless advice. This is not a pro giving you advice. This is an old guy who has never really achieved a whole lot giving you advice about crit racing. And so one of the pieces of advice I would give you is to practice energy conservation. And I learned about this through a YouTube channel and videos I watched. Um, Sprinter de la Casa. I've mentioned him before on my channel, probably a few times. So he was kind of the NorCal cycling way before NorCal cycling ever did anything. He had these videos, still does, on YouTube where he has these crit races and he is discussing his strategy in the crit race, and he's a sprinter. Now, in his case, he's not discussing them verbally with a voiceover, but rather he is using captions, subtitles to describe in the race why he's doing what he's doing. And a lot of what he talks about is energy conservation, when to use energy, when not to use energy, where to be in the pack, where the wind is coming from, taking shelter, being able to unleash power because you've conserved it when other people haven't gives you such a huge advantage. So if you're fresh, you get to that last lap and you're fresh, that's a huge advantage over someone that's spent needless energy without getting an advantage. Now, everyone's different, right? It's not so much that you need to conserve your energy for a sprint, it's that you need to conserve your energy for the times that it matters. And in your case, that might be a breakaway attempt. You've conserved your energy such that in your breakaway attempt, you have extraordinary power and you can maintain that power, and it's got a greater chance of success. So, congratulations to Angela. This kind of ride is a good training ground for racing because, number one, you are riding with people that either are racing or have previously raced and have a fitness level that's appropriate, or is that the word I'm looking for? Appropriate. They're fast enough to be in the races and in some cases win some of those races, especially the lower level races like the Cat 4 races. So, you can hang with those guys, then you have enough power to be in the mix. Now, do you really have to be in the mix to race? Can you do a race where you get dropped on the first lap? Yeah, well, sure. That'll give you some information about what's required. Then you'll be like, okay, I know how much more power and fitness I need to be able to stay in the group, and then you could make improvements. I've certainly heard of people doing that where, they started off getting dropped almost immediately all the time. Now, after that, you're just basically doing solo laps and you're not involved in anything, but you could also do the thing, at these lower levels of racing, they usually don't pull you immediately or ever, especially the weeknight crits, they don't pull you. And so as long as you're not causing trouble or being dangerous, you can, when the pack comes around again, you can get in the pack. But of course, if you got dropped immediately the first time, you're probably not going to be able to stay in the pack for very long the second time. But as you got more fit, you could keep doing that. You could get onto the pack, hold on as long as you can. It could be a workout. Now, there is this whole other issue of if you're in the pack and then you get involved because you've rested and other people get upset and like you're helping a team, that's a whole different story. Had a lot of debates about that. So, congratulations to Angela. There goes Brand. I'm doing the sound right now on my phone, not doing it over the webcam. So this particular program, I've noticed sometimes it gets these glitches and then the timing is off, and so I'm talking about something that like is out of sync with the video. Not that I've been really paying attention to the video all that much. We were facing a south wind today, so we're headed south right now. This is a headwind. And yeah, it wasn't terribly bad. It was maybe, I don't know, 8 miles an hour, which isn't nothing, but it's certainly not the strongest wind that we've faced. We've had unseasonably cool, wet, rainy weather here in the Dallas area over the past while. So, rained really, really hard earlier today. We've had all kinds of rain in the past week. The mountain bikers are crying themselves to sleep tonight, because of all the wet trails. Here in Texas, at least in the Dallas area, if the trails get wet, the mud is such that you can't ride it. It sticks to your bike like glue. It just gloms everything up. It destroys the trails. So they get really upset about uh, not being able to ride when it rains. And of course, road bikers, we don't have quite that issue because Concrete, asphalt, chip seal, dries pretty fast. Anyway, let's see, how far am I into this? 20 minutes, 21 minutes, talking the whole time without really saying anything. Yeah, it's not bad, not bad. Here we are getting to the end of May. So this was a hot and muggy day. You know, old people, when they start talking, the first thing they'll talk about is the weather. Three things: the weather, what they ate, and their bowel movements. Those are the three things. So I won't talk about what I ate, and I won't talk about my bowel movements. Although I have to say, this is not usual. I had to run to the bathroom right at the end of this ride. But we'll leave that for another day. Discussions about that. The discussions of the weather. So I think it was about 80 degrees, which isn't bad for us. And here in Texas, we'll take 80 degrees any day. That's like California weather for us. But it was a little bit more humid because of all the rain, and it does tend to get fairly humid here in Texas. Now, all things are relative. Like, you're in Dallas area, it's not humid at all compared to Houston. You go to Houston, you will learn humid. You go to San Antonio, quite humid. We're really lucky up here; it's not as humid. But you go to Arizona, we are a sweatbox compared to Arizona. So today was a little bit more humid. When the weather starts heating up, different guys react in different ways to that hotter weather. Bigger guys sometimes have more trouble because they have a harder time cooling down. Something like, like 30 to 40% of the energy in cycling is related to managing heat, getting the heat out of the system, getting the heat energy out. One of the underappreciated aspects of space travel, which I never really thought about, is heat management. How do you get the heat out of your spaceship such that you don't cook yourselves inside the spaceship? Now you say, well, space is super cold. Well, yeah, it's super cold, except it's basically a vacuum. And, like in your thermos, there's a vacuum in your thermos. That heat can't transfer through a vacuum. That's why your thermos works, because there is no way, or it's difficult for the heat or cold to transfer. And so the same thing occurs with spaceships. Now, how does that relate to cycling? Well, you have better heat transfer, you'll be more successful. You are more heat adapted, you'll be more successful. And some people have different physiologies that react in different ways. So this guy really kind of hit it hard right here. As I'm narrating over this video, I don't have the power numbers synced up yet, or I haven't created them, so I don't know what the power numbers were, but I thought, man, this guy's really kind of hammering a little bit, and maybe he's putting some guys in a little bit of distress behind. I wasn't sure because I couldn't see them, but I thought, I'm just going to wait till he tires quite a bit, or a bit before I go around, because I think that's more appropriate for kind of getting us all through this crosswind without trying to completely destroy this group. Now, I'm not saying that I felt a ton of energy at this particular moment, because I was tired actually, and didn't particularly have the strength, I think, to hammer through and just crush the pull or interval here. But yeah, this guy was pulling pretty hard at this particular section here. This is the gutter exam. So it's really the only part of the ride that has strong crosswinds. So we have other east-west sections. So here in Texas, usually the wind is either north or south. Warm fronts, the wind is coming from the Gulf, coming from the south. Cold fronts, it's coming from the north. Occasionally we'll get some northeast, southwest, stuff like that. But this is the only east-west section that is very open. These fields on our left and right allow the wind to really come crashing through and impact us. So, for example, on Renner Road later, it's also east-west, but we don't have nearly the same crosswinds because we have houses, we have trees, we have these fences that border the street. They're all blocking that strong wind that's pushing from the side. So I call this the gutter exam. meaning that plenty of hopes have been dashed on the Pop A ride related to not being able to stay in the group because of the crosswinds. You can see that we're in a little bit of an echelon here, meaning that the wind is coming from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen. The person at the front of the ride is all the way to the right in order to provide the most amount of shelter to the riders behind. If the rider on the very front was to the left, they would be in a position called guttering, meaning that there is almost no protection from the wind behind them. So everyone riding behind them would be essentially doing almost the same power as the person on the very front. And so usually in those kinds of cases, if people were smart, they would form an echelon to the right, and the riders behind would then be able to shelter. But oftentimes the riders that are more to the middle and back aren't the strongest riders, and they may be struggling. They may not act soon enough, and it's also kind of a selfless thing to be that person, the first person to go over there and form an echelon. It's kind of annoying when you do that and you're like, oh yeah, I'm the gentle alpha. I'm the one who's being magnanimous here and helping everyone else. And then you're riding all the way to the right side and nobody's taken your wheel and everyone's still in the gutter. That happens. Well, not saying that, I'm that magnanimous person all the time. I just introduced a phrase to you, gentle alpha. What do you think of that? Please post in the comments below. I like that phrase. I'll tell you where I came across it. So, there is a guy from the Fort Worth area that's a Cat 1 or Cat 2. I think he must be a Cat 1 now. And he's another former YouTuber. He has a YouTube channel. And I guess I'll just say his name. I don't really know him. I've never met him, so it's not like I'm not sure that he cares, and I'm not saying anything bad about him. He seems like a really nice guy. His name is Keith Bartholomew, if I'm remembering correctly, and his YouTube channel is his name. And he's this really affable, fast guy on the bike, maybe about 30 years old. I think when he was doing his videos, he was in his late 20s, like 28. And he's still racing. And anyway, I was doing a little Strava snooping because I was kind of curious. I don't know why. I was like, well, why hasn't Keith put up a video in, 2 years or whatever? And I was on Strava, or I was looking at race results of the Fair Park Crit on Strava, and I saw that he was in the race, and then I clicked on, well, is he riding that much? And I do a few clicks here and there, and one of the guys in his activity feed, on one of his rides, said, hey, we missed you at the last blah 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 ride. And he said, yeah, I had some blah 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 excuse for other things that he had to do, that he wasn't on the ride. And the same guy replied, well, we missed the gentle alpha. The gentle alpha. I like that. What does that mean? What is a gentle alpha? So first off, what is an alpha? Well, an alpha, alpha wolf, alpha, first letter of the Greek alphabet. An alpha is the leader, the boss, the person in charge. In cycling, alphas would be the ones who control the group, have the most power, have the most results, can dictate things in a race or on a ride just because of their level of skill, ability, power, smarts, etc. What is a gentle alpha? Well, I suppose, I don't know. I've had to think about this. And I think a gentle alpha is someone that uses their power for the group. I mean, that's not exactly right. Uses their power in a way that the non-alphas approve, respect, and appreciate, because to some degree it benefits them or doesn't make them feel bad or helps them, or isn't malignant, like isn't being a jerk. Like, you could ride like a jerk, but you don't. Therefore, you are a gentle alpha. So, for example, a gentle alpha might at times help someone. Purposefully helps them. I know this is a weird thought. Like, someone is having trouble and they're about to get dropped. A gentle alpha might help that person draft, get them back into the group, and do something like that. Um, a gentle alpha has a kindness about them when they are riding, especially on like group rides. Now, racing is a whole different story, but they have the kindness about them where they seem to appreciate the relationships, and the amount of flexing is considered socially appropriate. Now, that's also another hard thing to really nail down and define. Like, what is socially appropriate flexing and what is not socially appropriate flexing? And I don't know that I really have the answer to that, but I guess an easy way to define it is socially appropriate flexing is where people don't completely hate you. And they may hate you a little bit, and they may think you're, you know, um, cocky, uh, and you're in it for yourself, blah, blah, all that stuff. But they don't hate you. Or hate may be too strong a word. Not that they hate you as a person, but they might just not like the way you ride or the way you handle yourself on the ride, on the bike, etc. So that would be malignant alpha versus gentle alpha. No, most alphas are probably just regular alphas. They're not malignant alphas. They are not gentle alphas. They're just alphas. So I will say, it's really important for cycling for good, experienced cyclists to be welcoming, um, be willing to teach, mentor, guide less experienced cyclists, to not overly create bad experiences for them. Sometimes people need to be yelled at and they do something dangerous, and maybe there's, some sternness, forcefulness that may be involved there. But overall, there is I care about you, and I want to see you succeed, and I want to see you be safe, and here's a few things I've learned along the way. That part is, I think, really important because, all of us were beginners at one point, and I think in most cases we can all point to examples where we were mentored by somebody that we really liked and appreciated and was good at it, and we admire that person. And in some cases, we may have had some bad experiences where the person uh, did something or said something that kind of hurt our feelings or made us feel bad, or just made us feel like we weren't wanted. And gosh, who was it? Somebody told me. Yeah, okay, I now remember who. Um, I was talking with someone, and he actually joined our racing team. And after he joined our team, he related that there was a time on the ride, the pop ride, that I'd yelled at him about something. I had no memory of that. And I don't think I do too much yelling at people, but it's just kind of funny to me that that stuck out in his mind as a thing, where maybe I was not on my best behavior in terms of. Um, Sometimes you have to yell just because it's hard to hear, right? You're going 25, 30 miles an hour, it's hard to hear. But I don't know the exact circumstance. But my point is, even though I would like to say that uh, I aspire to be someone that is positive about things, but maybe I'm not. Maybe I just think I am, and I'm failing. I'm failing. So maybe something we can all think about, if you want to think about it. I guess I don't really care if you think about it, but I think for cycling, it's useful and important to have those mentors. And when I started doing the pop ride, the pop A ride, and the pop B for that matter, um, there were people that were like that were kind of helping me along the way, giving me encouragement, telling me when I was doing things wrong, etc. So we also have to be humble. We have to be teachable. We have to be willing to learn, even if you think you don't have things to learn. There's plenty to learn. And this is a really boring conversation I'm having with myself right here. This feels like preaching. This feels dumb. So that's what happens when you don't have a script. You don't, in particular, have anything to talk about. So why don't I talk about Brian right here, riding in front of me? Brian's from California, and again, I hope I'm not breaking confidence or tearing down people's privacy, but Brian is from California, moved here to Texas, and he was just telling me about I guess it was a cyclocross race he just did in, what is it called? Bentonville, Arkansas? Benton, Arkansas? I can't remember. The Walmart, Arkansas. And he had a great time. He said the views were wonderful. About a 100-mile race. 15 miles into the race, there was a crash. Guy did something in front of him. He ends up breaking his derailleur, and somehow he managed to get his wife to deliver his backup bike, his mountain bike, to him to replace his crib bike, and he was able to finish the whole ride. Although he said it was a little bit difficult because the course wasn't marked and he didn't have the route loaded up on his cyclo computer. So I guess note to self, if you're going to do a 100-mile cyclocross slash gravel race, I guess it wouldn't be. It was a gravel race, not cyclocross. It was a gravel race. Make sure you know the route and have the route. That's what he said. Make sure you know the route. Hard to ride with confidence when you don't know if you're on the route. That's a little bit like life, I think, sometimes. If you don't know if you're on the right path, it's hard to charge ahead with confidence. What time is it? 10:20. I've been talking for 36 minutes. I think I've covered the most important points that May 25th deserved. So I'm going to leave it at that. We're about to take our turn onto Renner Road. We are currently on Murphy Road, headed south. You can see actually the wind. You saw that flag there, if the timing of this video is okay. The wind is actually coming a lot more from the east than normal. I didn't mention this earlier, but we did have a split in the ride on Allen Heights where we shall charitably say, some guys made the light and some guys didn't. We didn't. And I'm curious to know which group went faster. I would assume the front group went faster, but sometimes maybe we don't have the same firepower as the guys that were in the front group, but maybe we cooperated and kept the pace up better and had a better pace line. We may have made more speed. Who knows? I don't know. Again, if this was a successful, useful YouTube channel, I would have this comparison and trump this up. The group that got behind actually went faster than the group that was ahead. Here's the data. Lessons learned. Ride in a cooperative fashion. Smooth is fast, and smooth is faster than attacking each other. Stuff like that. So, see the water. Just water left over from all this rain that we've had recently and today. So this is Renner Road with the riding into the sun. I was talking with one of the true historians of this ride, and his name is Scott. We kind of did part of the pop ride together. When I missed the ride, we both missed the ride, and he was talking about this hill that's coming up. And at times I have heard people refer to this hill as Crash Hill, but it's not something I refer to it as. And I just call it like Breckenridge Hill. So we're riding past Breckenridge Park. We're actually riding past the park that contains the Tuesday night Richardson Crit. It's to the left up here. Anyway, so we're going to be going down, then we'll go over this little bridge thing. And then there's this little hill. And Scott was telling me about this, and he said Crash Hill. I was like, why do they call it Crash Hill? And he goes, because there have been historically so many crashes on this hill. And when he says crashes, he's not talking about guys crashing into each other or the group crashing out. He's talking about cars crashing into cyclists. And the reason for this is certain times of the year, based on, I guess, which way the earth is pointing and the sun and time, etc. When you're riding on this hill, you are riding right into the sun, and cars can't see you if you're riding alone. I think he said that there have been a couple people that have died on Crash Hill, being hit by cars. Like been several accidents of cyclists on Crash Hill. I remember one of the pop cyclists. I was driving home after a crit race at the Tuesday night crit, and I can't remember if that cyclist was maybe riding home after the race, or maybe was doing the pop ride and been dropped, or maybe off the front. I don't know, but he was riding by himself. And I had a really hard time seeing him as I was driving behind him. I mentioned it to him afterwards. He wasn't running any lights, or anything. It wasn't nighttime or dark, but you ride right into the sun. You can, hopefully we're synced up here, but you can see it's hard to see the cyclist right in front of me. And we're not even to the hill yet. We're just riding a little bit downhill right now into the downhill portion, and then a little bit of an uphill portion. That's Crash Hill. So this coming up here is Renner Road, Crash Hill coming up. But interesting to talk to. Maybe your area has a local historian, and those people are interesting to talk to about the history of local cycling, local lore. It gets back to microsports, right? Every place has their lore, and when you think about it, it's kind of sad that all that information gets lost. I mean, I guess in some ways the whole human endeavor has some sadness about it, in that all of us eventually are lost and mortal and die and pass and go out of memory. And even if we stay in memory, it's not, say you're a famous novelist. Well, yeah, that's great. You have these novels and stuff, and that certainly tells us about that person, and maybe those novels stayed popular for a long time and that person's not forgotten, but do we even really know them? We just know the tiniest aspects about them, and not that we need to know about them, or it's necessarily tragic that these things are lost, but when you think about the sum total of mankind and all the stories and all the lore and all the fun things and the jokes, I guess sometimes I feel a little bit sentimental about just the idea that some of that stuff doesn't get completely lost. And maybe that's part of what my channel is about, just documenting a ride that I do on a regular basis. This channel is not monetized. It doesn't have enough subscribers to be monetized. I've never made a single cent from YouTube. I don't think I will ever make a single cent from YouTube, so it's certainly not about that. But it's almost like journaling, like a story. And I venture to say that most people who write in journals, which I don't think is all that many anymore, the vast majority of those journals are probably never read, and that's even by the people whom you'd think would care, like children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It's like the attempt to record has something noble about it. The attempt to pass on information, skills, lore, knowledge has some, you look at some of these old bikes, you might go onto social media or the internet and see these bikes from like 1910, 1900, the safety bikes. They don't look all that different from modern day bikes. I mean, they're not radically different. It's like we're just riding variations of that technology. And you wonder to what degree, the lore, the tradition, down the line, cycling is passed from person to person. We talked about etiquette, social rules, how those unspoken, unwritten things are kind of passed down. It may be different from place to place. So I guess maybe this conversation is, in some way, kind of tying itself together. Here we are. So I guess what? Yeah, we already went up Crash Hill. Is this Crash Hill? No. I can't remember. I think this is past Crash Hill. I've kind of lost track of where we are with the sun, and yeah, I think we're just going up. Yeah, we're just going up Renner past. We've already made the descent past Crash Hill. And this is usually the part of the ride that I like to, it's a false flat that I like to go a little bit hard on, but I think I eventually move up on the right here with James a little bit. We put in a little bit of an effort. Yeah, right here. Anyway, good bunch of people. Oh, yeah, yep, there we are, Kent, going to the front here. So, I said I was going to be finished. Now I think I'm going to be finished. It is 10:28 p.m. Good to have good sleep hygiene. Take care of your sleep. Get some rest. It's good for your legs. It's good for your brain. It's good for the soul. We will hold on to our stories, keep our stories, share our stories, document a little bit, not too much. I've thought about stopping these videos. I know it's a waste of time. And on the other hand, most of what I do is probably a waste of time, so it's not really worse than anything else I would be doing, so I can make that argument. Sometimes something funny is said on this ride, so I'll just say, oh yeah, I'll just post up the ride just because something funny was said at one of the stops. But I wish you well and checking out. Talk to you later. Bye.
you go to dig and you're like, oh no. You know, you're like, that sucked. I did a terrible job on my FTP. But you realize that you gave it. I have no 20-minute effort. Like, that's a lot to ask of an unfit person.
Right. That's why I don't do FTP tests.
I have to, because we're gonna try. Yeah, we're gonna try to get me trained.
Yeah.
I'm just way out of shape.
I use Exert. It's supposed to be pretty decent at estimating your FTP based on your efforts.
Yeah.
If you don't put in hard efforts, you won't get a good estimate.
Right. Yeah, I've got VO2s tomorrow.
Chasing this.
I just ramped it kind of a little bit. A lot maybe.
A lot of it?
Well, I never like jumped. I never like.
It was a firm rollout.
Yes, firm.
Very
firm rollout.
Very firm.
But no like going from.
You didn't
Like,
stand
no,
you didn't
no,
get out of
no going from 450 to like 1,000. The kick.
You probably went from 325 to 800.
I don't think I hit 800. Well, maybe. I bet it wasn't much above 60.